The Department of Justice and Constitutional Development has announced the due date for the submission of inputs to the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill has been extended from the 1st of December 2016 to the 31st of January 2017. The department says it is of a view that the public must be afforded sufficient time to ensure that once passed into legislation, the bill reflects the collective wisdom of the country. To talk to us about the bill and the extended time, we joined in our studios in Sea Point in Cape Town by the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, John Jeffery. Deputy Minister, it's a very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live.
Morning.
Kindly take us back as to how the bill came about.
Okay, let me just explain a little bit about the bill to begin with. It does two things mainly. It creates a category of crimes called hate crimes. They're existing crimes, which if part of the motive for the crime is because of a bias, a prejudice against the group identity, if you can put it that way, of the person, the victim, they become hate crimes. So, for example, this Middelburg case with the coffin, if it could be found, proved by the state that the crime was motivated by the fact that the victim was black, then that would probably become a hate crime. The second aspect of the bill is to create hate speech, which is basically language which belittles a person, again, because of the identity that they belong to. And there's a list of categories. So we have been working on a hate crimes bill for some time. We've decided to add hate speech to the bill because because of all the recent expressions of racism that have been occurring in the country. So that's roughly where the bill has come from.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that in Mpumalanga, a coffin assault case, but thank you so much for having touched on it. Let us just move on to hate speech via social media. Will the bill be accommodative enough to address hate speech that happens on social media? I mean, we've seen a lot of cases in South Africa recently.
Yes, it will do.
All right.
So it's any form of speech, expression that is put into the public eye. So you may not intend your post to go public, but if it does, then it probably would fall within the ambit of the bill.
But one other aspect, Deputy Minister, is that of the comedians. They're not very happy with the bill. They go as far as saying that it's actually limiting their craft. So talk to us about that as to how will the department look into this matter?
Look, that's obviously not the intention of the bill. Interestingly enough, one of the categories, or politicians are not listed as one of the categories that are protected in the bill. So they usually go for politicians. But the intention is not to limit or to affect comedians, to affect people, artists, creative people, that kind of category. That's also one of the reasons why the bill is out for comment, to say to the public and to say particularly to anyone interested, let's look at the wording that we've put down in the bill. Tell us what you think about it. Tell us how you think it can be improved so it doesn't have unforeseen consequences, that it catches somebody who's racist, who's homophobic, who's Islamophobic, but it doesn't have unintended consequences. Let me also just say that after this public comment period, the bill will then go back to Cabinet for approval and then be introduced into Parliament. And in Parliament, there'll be an extensive public participation process, public hearings, etc. So this is not the end of the process, but particularly from the department's side, we want to try and come up with the best wording that we can, and we really urge the public and interested people in particular to contribute, to have their say, and so that we can avoid the unintended consequences.
All right. I just want to go back to the issue of comedians, Deputy Minister, because we do know that they make a living out of mocking people. So are you basically saying that they might be exempted from this bill? Because I just didn't understand the clarity on that one. And talk to us about public participation as well, because we do know that the due date, or rather the what do you call this, the the date has been extended to the 31st of January.
Yes. Look, with comedians, I mean, obviously, I don't think it would be an exemption, because if you have a comedian who is unduly racist or anti-Semitic and deeply insulting, that's not acceptable. Generally, comedians are not like that. Yeah. They poke fun. They're not abusive. But it would really depend on whether the attack is on the group identity of the person, and whether it is abusive rather than simply mocking, simply making fun of. But as I said, it's not the intention to limit comedians. And let's look at the wording of that provision to ensure that we don't unduly limit comedians. As far as the public process, it was originally until the end of this month. We've extended it because there have been a number of requests from different organizations wanting more time to develop positions and consider their views. So that's why we've extended it to the end of January. And as I said then, once the bill is in Parliament, there will be a further process for public consultation.
All right. No, I need to wrap this one, but I wanted to touch on one another issue here, Deputy Minister, because I do know that the bill is not the first one of its kind. There are similar pieces of legislation internationally. If one was to look at countries like Kenya, Canada, and Australia as well, what are your observations as the department from those countries that have such an existing legislation?
Well, I think the key issue is that there's nothing really unusual about this bill internationally. Some of the opponents of the bill are trying to say that it is something horrendous that we're trying to do, that we're trying to restrict freedom of expression. And let me just say that no right, no freedom, and particularly not freedom of expression is absolute. But I think it's some 89 countries around the world that have hate speech legislation, and a lot more have hate crimes legislation.
All right, Deputy Minister, that's where you're going to leave it, but thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. There you have it. That's the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Department, John Jeffery, talking to us about this hate speech bill. They have extended the date from the 1st of December 2016 to the 31st of January 2017. Remember that first-time offenders can face 3 years in jail plus a fine, and repeat offenders can go as far as getting plus 10 years in jail and a fine. We're taking a